We're back with another Bulldogs in the Workforce this week. We are very lucky to be joined by Matt Sauer. Matt is a 2019 graduate of Lamar's Community High School. We're talking about welding today, and Matt is currently a welder up at Post Manufacturing up in Rock Valley, Iowa. So I know a lot of you as students out there are very interested in welding, which is proven by our welding numbers right now, which are through the roof over at the T&I building. So obviously there's a lot of interest in welding, so we want to make sure we got a graduate on here today who is a welder. So we're very fortunate to be joined by Matt Sauer. Matt, first of all, talk about some of your experiences at Lamar's Community High School and what you're involved in, and kind of what led you on the path to be a welder.
All right, thank you for having me. So I did football, wrestling, and track all 4 years of high school. I was mildly involved with FFA. I more so just joined for the classes. I really didn't do all the extra stuff with it. So I say mildly, very loosely, involved with FFA. And then I joined the Iowa Army National Guard my junior year.
Yeah. And then, so after you graduated from high school, talk to us a little bit about your journey from graduation from Lamar's Community High School to currently being a welder up in Rock Valley.
So when I graduated high school, I didn't have a set in stone plan of what I wanted to do or, what I was going to do post high school. I figured I would have just graduated and then completed my military training and then gone off into the workforce somewhere. I joined as a 88 mic truck driver, so I figured I was going to use that somehow. But then once I actually officially graduated, had my diploma and all, must have been 2-3 weeks before I shipped off for advanced individual training, that I was like, I need to go to school for something. Mm-hmm. And I got involved with welding my junior year because Paul Fisher, the former T&I instructor, was one of the wrestling coaches, and he said he had an opening in his intro to welding class, and something that I'd be interested in trying. And I was like, sure, I'm curious enough about it. I joined that my junior year. My senior year, I liked it enough, so I came back and did another year. And then after that, I decided to use my education benefits through the Iowa Army National Guard, the other grants and scholarships I received for taking college credit classes in high school, and went to WIT, where I got my associate's degree. And I did the 2-year program there at the height of COVID, which was interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
And graduated in 2021 from WIT, and then I went right into the workforce. I applied, started at Service Trucks Internationals, building cabinets and bodies for service trucks. And November of 2022, I deployed over to Poland with the National Guard, where I was stationed there for 10 months. And I came back and then went right back to STI for a little while. And just recently, in October, I applied and accepted another welding position in Post Manufacturing in Rock Valley, which is where I'm at currently.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of branching out a little bit from the welding, with your service in the military, that's so amazing and very commendable, very admirable, and we thank you for your service. And it's always really cool to see LCHS graduates being involved in the military. So again, thank you for your service, and just tell us just briefly, so what was that like being deployed, and what was that like being overseas?
It was a very cool experience. So I'm in transportation, and I seen all of Eastern Europe. I went all the way up to Latvia, all the way up Northern Europe, and I went all the way down to Romania. I spent a month in Germany.
Wow.
I went to Prague. Prague was a super cool place.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend going there if you have the chance.
Yeah.
And it was just cool to see the culture change from the United States to Eastern Europe and just
Mm-hmm.
how they did things compared to how we did things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I'm super glad I did it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Very cool.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Regarding your service in the military. So, so back to welding. What skills are needed to be a good welder in today's world?
Well, knowing how to weld.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's helpful. Yeah.
Yep. But now, like, both the two welding places I worked at, we've hired people with, like, little to no welding experience,
Mm-hmm.
and, and just like, it's just like whatever they produce, it's just like, dude, you're proud of that. It's like, that's the best you got. Like, you're proud of that. It'll just be a big lump of just terrible. And it's like, wow, like, people are going to see that, they're going to be like, wow, this thing is poorly done,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So actually, like, learning how to weld, and especially like out of position welding, like I do a lot of overhead welding, and like how to you gotta find ways to like position your body and whatnot. But just getting familiar with out of position welding, setting the machine, like you don't want to be. You want to set the machine for whatever you're welding to the right parameters. You don't want to like be welding in like a spray mode in like quarter-inch material because you're just gonna blow right through.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, but
Yeah.
knowing your components on the welder too, that's a big thing. Like your consumables, like your cone and like the tip and
Mm-hmm.
the wire,
Mm-hmm.
and like how to replace them, and then like also the components inside the welding lead, like the liner, which feeds the wire.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing how to replace that, knowing how to kind of troubleshoot it if you run into a faulty issue.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing like what like the correct gas mixture, like tanks are a thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and just knowing all that stuff, like that's very helpful. Reading a tape measure is also
Yeah.
it's also a huge thing that I deal with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's people like, oh, I can tape measure. It's like, all right, set this to 56 and 5/16, and they're like way out at 54. It's like, what are you doing?
Yep.
It's like, and like knowing the conversions too, like decimal to fraction. So like if something says 55.56, like it's 55 and 9/16,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to like take that and make it like work for the call out. And blueprints are another, like understanding and interpreting them is another really good thing. When I was at Lit, we kind of just briefly glossed over blueprints. We didn't like, we learned like all the call outs and such like that, but we weren't really like, all right, like here's your blueprint, make that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Understanding, interpreting blueprints is, huge.
Yeah.
And just, like just asking questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also, and then again, this is no surprise considering, what we knew of you when you were in high school, is it sounds like you take great pride in your work, and what you're doing, and if your name is attached to it, you want to make sure it's the best it can be. And so again, that's not a surprise, but would you agree with that?
Oh no, I take a lot of pride in my work and what I do, and
Yep.
I want to be able to put out the best possible product that I can, because at the end of the day, my name's attached to it. And I always go, every time I go into like a welding project, I go in with the mentality, build it like you're buying it.
Yep.
Or build it like you're building it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, don't cut corners anyway, because I promise they will come back. They will come back and haunt you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, that's awesome. So what kind of welding do you do, for the most part, Matt? Because I know there's different types of welding, but, what welding are you dealing with the most?
I deal with a lot of MIG welding, so just regular straight wire. And we have this like flux core wire at work, but I've never used it. They only use it for special things.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a TIG welder at work, which is so old, just beat up. It's missing stuff. It's but But yeah, it's mostly what I deal with is just straight MIG welding or pulse welding.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Matt, kind of one more question here for you, regarding welding. So if we have students that are interested in a career in welding and pursuing that, what advice or suggestions would you offer any young people that would like to go into welding someday?
Be a sponge. Like I use the term "be a sponge" when you're learning something new. Like, soak up all the information you can about it, and be coachable. That's a huge thing, because a lot, like, if you're gonna just start off welding, you gotta understand, like, all right, I'm new to the industry. I'm either fresh out of high school or college with a 2-year degree, and I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I can sit here and weld a T-joint all day because that's the only thing I was doing in school and doing a brake test, but now it's like, all right, now I have to learn how to, like, weld this corner to this other seam to this, like, like, completely just out of whack. So be a sponge, soak up all the information you can.
Yeah.
And like I said before, like, build something like you're buying it. Be proud of it.
Yep. Yeah. And I would think it'd be really important to be knowledgeable about all the different equipment you're using as well, when you weld, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, at my job now, like, you don't weld all the time.
Yeah.
Like, at least in my case, like, I've been doing a lot of, like, chassis prep. So I've been prepping all, like, the chassis to get ready to mount. So, like, and having to mount a subframe. So I got to be familiar with how to use the crane.
Yeah.
And, like, how that operates. And I got to be familiar with how to use a drill. And, like, drill holes in the frame or some other stuff, like a plasma cutter. I had a plasma cut out a thing in the truck and, make a piece that fit in, like a cover, and then weld that thing all the way around and then clean it up and make it look really good. Being familiar with your equipment. And another thing is safety too.
Yeah.
Like, we could sit here and talk till we're blue in the face about safety, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, like, my big thing is when I leave for work in the morning, I want to return home the exact same way that I left. Go the extra mile. Like, wear your earplugs, wear safety glasses, wear a grinding shield. Like, yeah, it can be an annoyance at times, but you never know.
Yeah.
I've had sanding wheels explode on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've had a grinding shield, I felt a little bit more easier about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. That's great advice, and I really like how you're providing us so many great insights. That's so specific to welding and the equipment and what type of welding you're doing, but also great advice that anybody can use, in life and in any profession for that matter. About being coachable and teachable and trying to learn and ask questions and those types of things. So that's great advice for anybody, really. So and it's so important for you and your career in welding from the way it sounds. Yeah.
Be flexible to change.
Yep.
Like, lately at my job, I've had to be flexible to change. Like, being in chassis prep and prepping all these chassis, it's like, I don't know how to use half this equipment or, like, exactly what I'm doing, but ask questions. All right, ask a million questions. I ask more questions than not.
Yep.
I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. I want to be able to make sure that when the customer gets it, he's going to be like, wow, like, there's a lot of effort, thought, care that was put into this product that I get to use.
Yep.
And my name's on it.
Yep. Yeah, well said, Matt. Well said. Okay. So we appreciate Matt Sauer, 2019 graduate of Lamar's Community High School, talking about his career in welding, as well as his military service as well. So we kind of got an added bonus there as well. So, yeah, you bet. So for Bulldogs in the Workforce this week, again, great stuff about welding. And if you're interested in welding and that's something you want to pursue or you want to talk more about it or have some questions, you can always stop down to the guidance office and talk to us. Or I know Mr. Mr. Kluver and Mr. Fitch out at the T&I building are also extremely knowledgeable about welding and what that might lead to for a career as well. So again, Matt Sauer, 2019 graduate, thank you very much for your time today on Bulldogs in the Workforce, and continued best wishes to you, and keep making a positive impact out there.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we'll be back again next week with another Bulldogs in the Workforce.